The Ghost type, introduced in Pokemon's first generation along with 14 other types, is famous for having some of Pokemon's most creative, popular, and eerie designs. At its introduction, Ghost-type Pokemon were weak to Ghost-type attacks, resistant to Poison and Bug-type attacks, and immune to normal and fighting attacks. In Generation 2, the Dark type, introduced in that generation, was added to Ghost Pokemon's weaknesses. Ghost-type attacks were super effective on Ghost Pokemon, had no effect on normal and Psychic Pokemon, and were resisted by nobody until Gen 2's introduction of the Dark type and the Steel type. Also in Gen 2, Ghost-type attacks became super effective against Psychic-type Pokemon. In Gen 6, the Steel type's resistance to Dark-type attacks was removed. A Pokemon with the ability Scrappy, such as Kangaskhan or Miltank, or Mind's Eye, such as Blood Moon or Ursaluna, could hit Ghost-type Pokemon with normal and fighting-type moves, doing regular damage. Additionally, using the moves Foresight or Odor Sleuth will also make it possible to hit them with normal or fighting attacks, again with regular damage. One super fun thing about the Ghost type is the incredibly unsettling Pokédex entries that some of the Pokemon have. For example, Gengar's Pokédex entry in Pokemon Sun reads, "Should you feel yourself attacked by a sudden chill, it is evidence of an approaching Gengar. There is no escaping it. Give up." Think about that next time you feel a draft. Another creepy one that is also kind of funny is Drifloon's entry, also in Sun, which says, "Stories go that it grabs the hands of small children and drags them away to the afterlife. It dislikes heavy children." Anyway, let's get into the history of the Ghost type. Generation 1 introduced no pure Ghost-type Pokemon and only introduced 3 dual types, all part of one evolutionary line. These 3 Pokemon, Ghastly, its evolution Haunter, and its evolution Gengar, are all primarily Ghost-type, with Poison as a secondary type. Notably, Haunter will usually only evolve into Gengar by trading, with the exception being in Legends Arceus, where one could use a linking cord to evolve Haunter. Some Pokédex highlights from Pokemon introduced in Generation 1 include Haunter's entry in Pokemon Yellow and the Let's Go games. By licking, it saps the victim's life. It causes shaking that won't stop until the victim's demise. Gengar's entry in Fire Red and Shield is just as bleak, reading, "It is said to emerge from darkness to steal the lives of those who become lost in the mountains." Pokemon absorbing people's lives or spirit will become a recurring theme here. 3 moves were introduced in Generation 1. Since this was before Generation 4's physical special split, all damaging Ghost-type moves were physical. The first of the 2 damaging physical attacks introduced in Generation 1 is Lick, a move with 100% accuracy and 20 power. Lick also has a 30% chance of paralyzing the opponent, however other Ghost-type Pokemon are immune to this. In Generation 2, this immunity was removed, and in Generation 6, Lick's power was boosted to 30. Nightshade is the other damaging attack, being the signature attack of the Ghastly family in Generation 1. Nightshade has 100% accuracy and deals damage equivalent to the user's level. In Gen 1, Nightshade isn't really impacted by types. There was no same type attack bonus when used by a Ghost-type Pokemon, which in this gen are the only kind of Pokemon that can learn this attack, and it ignores immunities, allowing it to hit normal and Psychic-type Pokemon. In Gen 2, this is changed so immunities apply. Confuse Ray is the final move added in Gen 1, and it is a status move. Confuse Ray simply gives the target confusion. Also noteworthy is the 5 normal and fighting type moves that, in Generation 1 only, can actually hurt Ghost-type Pokemon despite Ghost's immunity. Normal moves Bide, Sonic Boom, and Super Fang, and fighting moves Counter and Seismic Toss will all damage a Ghost-type Pokemon the same it would any other Pokemon. Additionally, Glare, an attack that only paralyzes the target, can also hit Ghost types. This was changed in Generation 2. Agatha, the 3rd member of Kanto's Elite Four, is the sole Ghost-type specialist introduced in Generation 1. In Red, Blue, and Yellow, as well as the Generation 3 remakes, Agatha will use 2 Gengars, a Haunter, a Golbat, and an Arbok. While Golbat and Arbok are both not Ghost-type, Golbat does know Confuse Ray, however her Arbok knows no Ghost-type moves. In Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, she replaces the Arbok with Weezing, which knows the Ghost-type attack Shadow Ball, however now her Golbat knows no Ghost attacks, only knowing Air Slash, Crunch, and Quick Attack. Generation 2 introduces the first pure Ghost-type Pokemon, Misdreavus, which is also the only new Ghost-type Pokemon. As I mentioned in the introduction, Generation 2 removed Psychic-type Pokemon's immunity to Ghost-type attacks. making Ghost-type attacks now super effective on Psychic-type Pokemon. This was done to nerf the Psychic-type after it was ridiculously overpowered in Generation 1. If you want to learn more about that, I did a video discussing this topic that I encourage you to check out. Also added in Generation 2, Ghost attacks were now resisted by the new Dark and Steel types. While Generation 2 added only one new Pokemon, it made up for that by adding 4 new Ghost-type moves and 1 move that would later become Ghost-type. Curse is an attack that is actually not Ghost-type, but rather the 3 question mark type, Unknown. Curse is the only move with this unique type. However, in Generation 5, this type was eliminated and Curse became a Ghost-type attack. Curse is a status move that will have a different effect depending on the type of the Pokemon using it. When used by a non-Ghost-type Pokemon, it will simply lower the user's speed stat by 1 stage and increase its attack and defense stats each by 1 stage. However, if a Ghost-type Pokemon uses this attack, the user will lose half of its maximum HP. By forfeiting their HP, the Ghost-type Pokemon is able to put a curse on the target. This attack will still work even if the user dies as a result of this. The opponent, now cursed, will lose 1/4 of its maximum HP at the end of every turn. Switching the target can lift the curse. However, if the trainer uses Baton Pass to do this, the curse will be transferred to the new Pokemon. The curse is also lifted when the battle ends. Destiny Bond is another status move. When a Pokemon uses Destiny Bond, if the opposing Pokemon knocks the user out, then the opposing Pokemon will also faint. This ends upon the user's next turn. Starting in Generation 3, 2 attacks are excluded from this: Doom Desire and Future Sight. Starting in Gen 7, Destiny Bond will fail if the attack was successfully used by the same user in the last turn. Another status move introduced in this generation is Nightmare. If the targeted Pokemon is asleep, then that Pokemon will lose 1/4 of its maximum HP at the end of every turn. When the opponent wakes up, Nightmare ends. In Generation 2 and 3, Nightmare skips accuracy checks, but in Generation 4 it will have 100% accuracy. This means the move's accuracy can now be impacted by weather such as fog, or by a Pokemon raising its evasiveness. Nightmare is not present in Generations 8 and 9. Spite is the final Ghost status move introduced in Generation 2, being a move with 100% accuracy. Spite will cause the last move the target used to lose anywhere between 2 to 5 power points. This number is randomly selected. If that move is out of power points, Spite fails. In Generation 3 only, Spite will also fail if the target's move only has 1 power point remaining. In Generation 4 and beyond, Spite will now always drain 4 power points from the target's move, or however many power points are left if it has less than 4. Shadow Ball is the sole direct attack introduced in this generation. This attack has 100% accuracy, 80 power, and has a 20% chance of lowering the target's special defense. In Generation 4, Shadow Ball became a physical attack. Shadow Ball is available as TM30 in Generation 2, being a prize for defeating the gym leader Morty. Generation 2 introduces the Spell Tag, a held item that increases the power of Ghost-type moves by 10%. In Generation 4, this was changed to increase the power by 20%. Generation 2's sole Ghost-type specialist is Morty, the gym leader of Ecruteak City. In the gym battle in all of the Johto games, he will use a team composed of a Ghastly, 2 Haunters, and a Gengar. Generation 3 adds 6 new Ghost-type Pokemon. For pure Ghost types, we got Shuppet in its evolution Banette, as well as Duskull in its evolution Dusclops. We also got 2 dual types, both having Ghost as a secondary type. Shedinja, also a bug type, is an interesting Pokemon that is obtained when Nincada evolves. When Nincada evolves into Ninjask at level 20, if the player has an open space in their party, Shedinja will appear. In Generation 4 and beyond, you also need to have at least 1 regular Pokeball in the bag to obtain Shedinja. Shedinja only has 1 HP, however with its unique ability Wonder Guard, only super effective moves can damage it. In Generation 8, Shedinja can also be caught during max raid battles. The final Pokemon, Sableye, has a primary type of Dark. Generation 3's Pokemon also have some creepy Pokédex entries. Shedinja's entry in Ruby and its remake says, Shedinja's hard body doesn't move, not even a twitch. In fact, its body appears to be merely a hollow shell. It is believed that this Pokemon will steal the spirit of anyone peering into its hollow body from the back. This is a little concerning, since when you are actually using Shedinja in battle, you are peering into its hollow body from the back. Banette's entry in Ultra Sun says, "It's a stuffed toy that was thrown away and became possessed, ever searching for the one who threw it away so it can exact its revenge." That's why you should donate your old toys instead of trashing them. You can save the earth and your life. Duskull's entry in Sapphire says, "Duskull wanders lost among the deep darkness of midnight. There is an oft-told admonishment given to misbehaving children that this Pokemon will spirit away bad children who earn scoldings from their mothers." What does spirit away mean? Well, in Japanese folklore, it means the mysterious disappearance or death of a person after they angered the spirits. Thankfully, Duskull's entry in Violet gives us some much-needed insight to see how Duskull spirits children away. It says, "Duskull's victims suffer an intense chill as the Pokemon siphons their life force away, glaring at them with its bright red eyes all the while." Moving on, only 3 new Ghost-type moves were introduced in Generation 3. One of these moves, Grudge, is a status move. After Grudge is used, if the opponent Pokemon knocks the user out, then the move the opponent used will lose all of its power points. This move is unavailable in Generation 9. The other 2 moves are both damaging attacks. Astonish has 30 power and 100% accuracy and also has a 30% chance to make the target flinch. If the opposing Pokemon used Minimize while it was active, then Astonish's damage will double. However, this is only present in Generation 3. The final move added in this generation is Shadow Punch, which has 60 power and skips accuracy checks. The only Ghost-type specialist introduced in Generation 3 is Phoebe, the second member of Hoenn's Elite Four. In the battle, she will use 2 Dusclopses, 2 Banettes, and a Sableye. In the remakes, she will replace one of her Dusclopses with its Gen 4 evolution, Dusknoir. Generation 4 added 8 new Ghost-type Pokemon. 2 of these new Pokemon are pure Ghost types and are new evolutions of previously introduced Pokemon. These 2 are Mismagius and Dusknoir. Mismagius evolves from the Gen 2 Pokemon Misdreavus when it is exposed to a Duskstone. Dusknoir will evolve from Dusclops when Dusclops is traded while holding a Reaper Cloth, or in Legends Arceus only, simply exposed to the Reaper Cloth. For dual types with the primary type of Ghost, we got Drifloon and its evolution Drifblim, both also flying, as well as Spiritomb, also a dark type. Also introduced this generation was the first Ghost-type legendary Pokemon, Giratina, also a Dragon type. For dual types with Ghost as a secondary type, we got another new evolution of an old Pokemon, Frostlass, an Ice Ghost Pokemon that evolves from Gen 3 Pokemon Snorunt when it's exposed to a Dawnstone. Rotom is the final new Pokemon, being electric and Ghost. Rotom has the ability to possess appliances and adopt one of 5 forms by doing so. These forms are Heat Rotom, Wash Rotom, Frost Rotom, Fan Rotom, and Mo Rotom. In Generation 4, all of these forms were electric and Ghost, but in Generation 5, the Ghost type was dropped and each form got its own new type. There are some frightening Pokédex entries for some Gen 4 Pokemon. Drifblim's entry in Sword reads, "Some say this Pokemon is a collection of souls, burdened with regrets, silently drifting through the dusk." Frostlass's entry in Sun is pretty terrifying. When it finds humans or Pokemon it likes, it freezes them and takes them to its chilly den where they become decorations. 4 new Ghost-type moves were introduced in Generation 4. Ominous Wind, the one special attack introduced, has 100% accuracy and 60 power. This attack has a 10% chance of raising the user's attack, special defense, special defense, and speed stats by 1 stage. Ominous Wind is unavailable in Generation 8 and 9. The remaining 3 moves are all physical attacks. Shadow Claw, given to you as TM65 when you defeat Fantina, has 70 power, 100% accuracy, and has an increased chance of a critical hit. Shadow Force, Giratina's signature move, is a 2-turn attack that can hit the target even if it has used a protecting move like Detect or Protect. This attack has 120 power and 100% accuracy. Shadow Sneak is a simple move that has 100% accuracy and 40 power. Generation 4 also introduced 3 new items that can impact Ghost-type moves. The Spooky Plate will, if held by a Pokemon, increase the power of its Ghost-type moves by 20%. If given to Arceus, it will become Ghost-type and its signature move, Judgment, will become a Ghost-type attack. The Grizius Orb will transform Giratina from its altered form into its origin form, and will also increase the power of its dragon and ghost type attacks by 20%. Lastly, the Case of Berry can be held by a Pokemon and, when hit by a ghost type move that would be super effective, the move's damage will be cut in half. Fantina, Hearthome City's gym leader, is the only ghost type specialist introduced in Generation 4. In Diamond and Pearl and their remakes, Fantina is the 5th gym leader you will battle, and she'll use a Drifblim, a Gengar, and a Mismagius. In Platinum, she is actually the 3rd gym leader, and she will instead use a Duskull, a Haunter, and a Mismagius. Generation 5 introduces 9 new Ghost-type Pokemon. But before we get into that, real quick, if you like what you are seeing, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel grow, and it means a lot to me. Thank you. Back to Pokemon. For pure Ghost types, we got 2. The Spirit Pokemon Yamask and its evolution Cofagrigus. For dual types with a primary type of Ghost, we got the family of Fire Pokemon Litwick, Lampent, and Chandelure. For dual types with Ghost as the secondary type, we got Frillish, its evolution Jellicent, both also water, as well as Golett and Golurk, both also ground. Additionally, while they aren't actually Pokemon, Pokestar Studios' opponents are treated like Pokemon since they have types, moves, abilities, etc. Majin is a Pokestar Studio opponent that is Dark and Ghost type. Generation 5's Pokemon come with a whole lineup of spine-chilling Pokédex entries. Yamask's entry in Pokemon Black, White, and Alpha Sapphire says, each of them carries a mask that used to be its face when it was a human. Sometimes they look at it and cry. Jellicent, one of the goofiest looking Pokemon, has one of the most chilling Pokédex entries. In Pokemon Black, White, and Alpha Sapphire, Jellicent's entry states, the fate of the ships and crew that wander into Jellicent's habitat, all sunken, all lost, all vanished. Can you imagine this thing killing you? Litwick, a Pokemon most people would probably think is just a harmless candle, apparently absorbs people's lives with its flame. In Pokemon Shield, its entry says, the younger the life this Pokemon absorbs, the brighter and eerier the flame on its head burns. Generation 5 only introduces one new Ghost-type move, currently the least out of every generation. This one move, Hex, is a special attack. Hex has 50 power and 100% accuracy, and if the target has a non-volatile status condition such as poison, burn, paralysis, sleep, or freeze, Hex's power will double. In Generation 6 and beyond, Hex was altered so its base power is 65. As mentioned before, the Generation 2 move Curse became Ghost type in Generation 5. One new item was introduced, the Ghost Gem, which can be held by a Pokemon. When held, it will increase the power of the first Ghost-type move the Pokemon uses by 50%, consuming the item in the process. Unova's Elite Four is where you will find Generation 5's only Ghost-type specialist, Chantal. In Black and White, she'll be use a Cofagrigus, a Jellicent, a Golurk, and a Chandelure in the Elite Four battle. In Black 2 and White 2, she will use the same team with the exception of Jellicent. She replaces it with a Drifblim. If you are playing in Challenge mode, she will add a Banette. Generation 6 adds 8 new Ghost-type Pokemon, however, none of them are pure Ghost-type. For Pokemon with a primary type of Ghost, we got the Stump Pokemon Phantump, as well as its evolution Trevenant. Additionally, we got Pumpkaboo and its evolution Gourgeist. Phantump and Pumpkaboo will only evolve into their respective evolutions when trading, and all 4 Pokemon are also Grass-type. For Pokemon with Ghost as a secondary type, we got Honedge, its evolution Doublade, and its evolution Aegislash, all of which are primarily Steel-type. Mythical Pokemon Hoopa was also introduced this generation. In Hoopa's default form, Hoopa Confined, it is Psychic and Ghost. Using the Prison Bottle will transform Hoopa into Hoopa Unbound, causing it to drop its Ghost type and adopt Dark as its secondary type. Additionally, 3 older Pokemon, Gengar, Sableye, and Banette, all got Mega Evolutions. These Mega Evolutions are all the same type as their original form. There are some horrifying Pokédex entries for some of Generation 6's Pokemon. Phantump's entry in Ultra Sun states, by imitating the voice of a child, it causes people to get hopelessly lost deep in the forest. It's trying to make friends with them. I don't know about you, but I'm going to call bullshit on that one. I think Phantump is actually trying to get them killed, because in Y and Alpha Sapphire, Phantump's entry is, according to old tales, these Pokemon are stumps, possessed by the spirits of children who died while lost in the forest. I suppose maybe they can be friends now that they're also a Phantump. Gourgeist's entry in Y and Alpha Sapphire is petrifying and particularly vivid, stating, "It enwraps its prey in its hair-like arms. It sings joyfully as it observes the suffering of its prey." Finally, Honedge has some chilling and morbid entries. Its entry in Y and Alpha Sapphire reads, "If anyone dares to grab its hilt, it wraps a blue cloth around that person's arm and drains that person's life energy completely." In Pokemon Sword, Honedge's entry states, "Honedge's soul once belonged to a person, who was killed a long time ago by the sword that makes up Honedge's body." Generation 6 only adds 2 new Ghost-type moves. One is a physical attack, Phantom Force. This attack is very similar to Shadow Force, meaning it will take 2 turns to execute and can hit through a protection move. However, while Shadow Force has 120 power and can only be learned by Giratina, Phantom Force has 90 power and can be learned by more Pokemon. The other move, Trick or Treat, is a status move and is the signature move of Pumpkaboo and Gourgeist. This attack will add the Ghost type to the target. This move is unavailable in Generation 9. There were no new Ghost type specialists in Generation 6. There were 9 new Ghost type Pokemon that were introduced in Generation 7. For the second generation in a row, there were no pure Ghost types introduced. For dual types with a primary type of Ghost, we have 5 Pokemon. Oricorio will have 4 different forms depending on where it is found and what nectar has been used on it. Sensu-style Oricorio, obtained with the purple nectar and found in Pony Meadow in Alola and Wistful Fields in Scarlet and Violet's Teal Mask DLC, is Ghost and Flying. Sandygast and its evolution Palossand are both also ground. Also introduced was Mimikyu, a Ghost Fairy Pokemon, and Dhelmise, a Ghost Grass Pokemon. We have 4 new Pokemon with a secondary type of Ghost, as well as a form of a Psychic type Pokemon. To start, we got the first starter evolution to be Ghost type, Decidueye, which is the final evolution of the Grass starter Rowlet. Legendary Pokemon Lunala, also Pokemon Moon's game mascot, is Psychic and Ghost. Marshadow, a mythical Pokemon, is Fighting and Ghost. Blacephalon, one of the Ultra Beasts, is Fire and Ghost. Finally, Necrozma, while normally pure Psychic type, will become Psychic and Ghost when the N Lunarizer is used. This will make Necrozma merge with Lunala and become Dawn Wings Necrozma. In addition to this, we also got 1 new regional form, Alolan Marowak, which is a Fire and Ghost type Pokemon. Like Arceus, legendary Pokemon Silvally can change types when given a specific item. When given the Ghost Memory, Silvally will become Ghost type and Silvally's signature move, Multi-Attack, will become a Ghost type attack. One Pokédex highlight from Generation 7 is Palossand, which appears to be a cute, cool, playful sandcastle. However, Palossand also seems to absorb the life out of people, which seems to be a favorite pastime of a lot of Pokemon. Its entry in Pokemon Moon states, "Buried beneath the castle are masses of dried up bones from whose vitality it has drained." How does Palossand drain people's vitality? Glad you asked, because Pokemon Sword has an answer. Palossand's entry in Sword states, "Palossand is known as the Beach Nightmare. It pulls its prey down into the sand by controlling the sand itself, then it sucks out their souls." Fun! In Generation 7, we got 8 new Ghost-type moves. Moongeist Beam is a special attack that has 100% accuracy, 100 power, and it will ignore the abilities of other Pokemon. This is the signature move of Lunala and Dawn Wings Necrozma. Giving the Lunalium Z to either of them will upgrade the move into Menacing Moonrays Maelstrom, the exclusive Z move of the 2 Pokemon. Menacing Moonrays Maelstrom has a power of 200 and is a special move. Another Z move added is Never Ending Nightmare, which has a category and power depending on which move it is based on. Spirit Shackle is a physical attack with 80 power and 100% accuracy. It is the signature move of Decidueye and prevents the target from switching out unless they are holding a Shed Shell, an Eject button, a red card, if Baton Pass, U-Turn, Parting Shot, or Volt Switch are used, or if the Pokemon has the ability Wimp Out or Emergency Exit. Spirit Shackle can be upgraded into the Z-move Sinister Arrow Raid, which will also be a physical attack and have 180 power, but has no additional effect. Spectral Thief is Marshadow's signature move, and it is a physical attack with 90 power and 100% accuracy. If the target has any positive stat changes, the user of this attack will steal those changes, applying them to the user right before damage is dealt. Spectral Thief can be upgraded into the Z move named Soul Stealing 7-Star Strike, which is a physical attack with 195 power and no other effects. Shadow Bone is a physical attack with 85 power, 100% accuracy, and is one of the signature moves of Alolan Marowak. Of these moves, only Moongeist Beam, Shadow Bone, Spectral Thief, and Spirit Shackle are available in Generation 8, and only Moongeist Beam and Spirit Shackle are available in Generation 9. Acerola is the only Ghost-type specialist added in Generation 7. She is the trial captain of the abandoned Thrifty Mega Mart on Ula Ula Island. She is also a member of Alola's Elite Four. During the Elite Four battle, she will use a Sableye, a Drifblim, a Delmise, a Frostlass, and a Palossand in both Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. In Generation 8, we were introduced to 9 new original Ghost-type Pokemon. 4 of these new Pokemon are pure Ghost-type. Sinistea and its evolution Poltegeist, as well as the legendary Pokemon Spectrier, which was introduced in the Crown Tundra expansion, are 3 of these Pokemon. The 4th is Cursola, which is a new evolution of Corsola, evolving from its newly introduced pure Ghost-type Galarian regional form. Similarly, Yamask's new Galarian regional form, which is Ground and Ghost, evolves into the new Pokemon Runerigus, also Ground and Ghost. For other dual types, Dreepy, its evolution Drakecloak, and its evolution Dragapult, Galar's pseudo-legendary Pokemon, are all Dragon and Ghost. Finally, Basculegion is a new Pokemon that is Water and Ghost type, evolving from Basculin's white-striped form. This evolution is fairly complicated, as Basculin will need to lose 294 HP from recoil damage without fainting to evolve. Additionally, Basculin will need to be leveled up before triggering evolution, except in Legends Arceus. White Striped Basculin is exclusive to Hisui and Kitakami, and, like Basculin's other 2 forms, is pure Water type. Calyrex, normally Psychic and Grass, will become Psychic and Ghost if it becomes Shadow Rider Calyrex, obtained by using the Reins of Unity on Calyrex and Spectrier. In addition to the 2 new Galarian regional forms I previously mentioned, 3 Pokemon got new Ghost-type Hisuian forms. Typhlosion is Fire and Ghost, while Hisuian Zora and its evolution Hisuian Zorak are both normal and Ghost. One Pokédex highlight for this generation is Galarian Corsola. Its entry isn't necessarily very creepy, but rather just very depressing. It states, sudden climate change wiped out this ancient kind of Corsola, reflecting how climate change is killing coral reefs in real life. But there's more, as you might have guessed given the theme with Ghost-type Pokédex entries. Yes, Corsola also absorbs people's lives. Its entry continues, saying, this Pokemon absorbs others' life force through its branches. 6 new Ghost-type moves were introduced in Generation 8. Max Phantasm is a max move that lowers all opposing Pokemon's defense stat by 1 stage, as well as dealing damage. Its power and category are determined by whatever move it is based on. G-Max Terror is a G-Max move introduced, which is the exclusive G-Max move of Gigantamax Gengar. This move will deal damage and prevent the target from switching out. Its power and category are determined by the move it is based on. Astral Barrage will target all adjacent opponents, has 120 power, 100% accuracy, and is a special attack. It is the signature move of Shadow Rider Calyrex. Bitter Malice, Hisuian Zora and Zorak signature move, is another special attack that has 75 power, 100% accuracy, and has a 30% chance or 50% in Strong Style to inflict Frostbite on the target. If the opponent has a status condition, Bitter Malice's power doubles. Infernal Parade, Hisuian Typhlosion's signature move, has 60 power, 100% accuracy, and a 30% chance of inflicting the target with Burn. Like Bitter Malice, the move will double if the target has a status condition, and it's also a special attack. Poltergeist is a particularly interesting physical attack that will only deal damage if the target is holding a held item. A message is displayed reading, the target Pokemon is about to be attacked by its item, implying the Pokemon using the attack is possessing the item and attacking the target with it. This attack has 110 power and 90% accuracy. All of these moves, with the exception of Max Phantasm and G-Max Terror, are available in Generation 9 as well. For Ghost-type specialists, Generation 8 introduced us to Alistair, the gym leader in Stow-on Side in Pokemon Shield only. In Pokemon Sword, B is Stow-on Side's gym leader. Alistair is a pretty creepy looking dude who will use a Yamask, a Mimikyu, a Cursola, and a Gengar, which he will Gigantamax, in the gym battle. In the Champion Cup battle, he will use a Dusknoir, a Chandelure, a Cursola, a Poltegeist, and a Gengar, which he will again Gigantamax. Generation 9 introduces 12 new Ghost-type Pokemon, the most out of any generation so far. For pure Ghost types, we got 3. Greavard, its evolution Houndstone, and Gimmighoul. For dual types, we got Gimmighoul's evolution, Pokemon number 1000, Goldengo, which is Steel and Ghost. Cruel Edge, one of 2 evolutions of Charcadet alongside Amarogue, is a Fire and Ghost type Pokemon. Tumbleweed Pokemon Bramblin is Grass and Ghost, and so is its evolution Bramblegast. Annihilate is a Fighting and Ghost type new evolution of Primeape, which is obtained after Primeape uses Rage Fist 20 times. Pecharunt is a Poison and Ghost Pokemon introduced during the Indigo Discs expansion epilogue Mochi Mayhem. The last 3 Pokemon should remind you of older Pokemon. Fluttermane is a Ghost and Fairy Paradox Pokemon, said to be an ancient relative of Misdreavus. Matcha Pokemon Poltegeist and Sinistra, both Grass and Ghost, are ecologically similar to Sinistea and Poltegeist. While Generation 9 added the most new Ghost-type Pokemon, it added the least amount of new moves, adding only 2, both physical attacks. Lazarus Specs has 100% accuracy and a base power of 50, however its power increases by 50 every time any Pokemon on the user's side faints. Revives can be used and it will count if a revived Pokemon faints. It is possible to get Lazarus Specs up to 5050 power. Rage Fist, the signature move of Primeape and Annihilate, has 100% accuracy and a base power of 50. It is somewhat similar to Lazarus Specs. Rage Fist's power will increase by 50 every time the user is hit by direct damage, maxing out at 350. Generation 9 introduces only 1 new Ghost-type specialist, Rhyme, the gym leader of Montenevera. In the gym battle, she will use a Banette, a Mimikyu, a Houndstone, and a Toxtricity. And that is it, the history of Pokemon's Ghost type from its introduction in Generation 1 until today's Generation 9 pair of Scarlet and Violet. If you liked this video, please leave a like and please subscribe to see more. Thank you for watching.